Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. I am Jen, and I told you guys it wasn't going to be too long before I came back with another recommendation video for you, or trope recommendation video for you. We need to come up with a name for these romance recommendation, trope specific recommendations. If you have a suggestion, leave it in the comments down below. Okay, let's get into it, because today, I mean, obviously you know, because it's on the title of the video, but drum roll please. I have teacher-student romances for you today. Now, this isn't my first teacher-student romance recommendation video. I, of course, will leave that up in a card for you and down in the description box. If you haven't watched that one, stop. Go watch that one and then come back, because I stand by those recommendations. Those are some of my favorite books. I mean, if you can kind of see a few of them here, okay? So, I love me some age gap. I love me some teacher student, and I was kind of feeling nostalgic for it, and so I got a bunch of books together. I have an extensive list of teacher student recommendations. I just pulled a few from that list and hoped for the best, which, I mean, doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm talking about. We're gonna get into it. Okay, let's talk about some teacher students, shall we? Okay, my first recommendation for you guys is Dear Mr. Brody by A.M. Johnson. This is our only MM romance on today's video, and I believe my only MM teacher-student romance that I've talked about. So, there you go. This one is between Donovan and Parker. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this right now. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this book. It might be my favorite out of this, maybe. One of my favorites. We'll see. But I really enjoyed it. I do want to also mention here that this is not angsty. No, there really isn't too much angst. There's also no real drama. So if you're looking for something that's super angsty, something super slow burn, something with a lot of drama, a toxic relationship, if you will, or just any drama, really, you're not going to get that here. It was a really great book, and it had a really great love story, and there is really good representation of, I feel like, this dynamic. There is bi awakening. There is really just learning to navigate a adult relationship for the first time for one of our characters, and it was just a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend it, even if you're not into teacher-student romances. It's not a big off-balance series where you have a really, really young girl and a really old guy, or where they're in high school, or Dark Notes here, where, again, in high school. So they, Parker's in college, so there's that. It reminded me, it was very reminiscent of a Marley Valentine book. She writes really great MM romances, guys. Like, if you read Marley Valentine, you'll know. If you have not read Marley Valentine, and you kind of want to dip your toe in that, she is phenomenal for MM romances. Actually, she came out with she has a new release. It came out, I don't think I have it when it came out. No, I don't. Unlikely. This one, actually, I think it's an FF romance that I have not read yet, and I need to get to it. But again, there's just a style of writing and the way that you really dive into the relationships. It just reminded me of Marley Valentine. So I really enjoyed this book. So we have a man who has essentially always been straight for his entire life. He has been married for a very, very, very long time and is now divorced. They have a child together. They are co-parenting very well. But deep down, Donovan knows that he has always had an eye for the male. He never would have strayed from his wife, but he never got to experiment. And now that he's divorced, he's ready to try his hand on that. It may or may not work, but I'm ready to try my hand on that, and that is where that bi awakening comes from. And Parker comes in and is willing to help with that. What I found really interesting and what was really refreshing to me was that we have our student, the younger character in our book, was the more experienced. Kind of goes back to Lessons in Corruption with Gianna Darling. King is extremely more experienced and king. But this was it was more of, Parker was able to take the lead, and Donovan allowed him to do that and to show him how to navigate that world. But also Donovan was able to teach Parker how to be in a real adult relationship. I just, it was a really moving, beautiful story. I really, really liked it. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I really highly recommend it, guys. My next teacher-student recommendation for you is I Wish I Would Have Chosen You. It is a long title. I Wish I Would Have Chosen You by Whitney G. This one is between Genevieve and Liam. This one grabbed me right from the beginning. It was completely opposite of Dear Mr. Brody, wherein they have this really intense meeting, and then he finds out that she is to be one of his students, and is like taken aback at the fact that he almost slept with one of his students and would have, and really had this intense sexual chemistry with her, only to find out that he cannot act on any of his feelings. So then there was this really fun for me, fun as for the reader, back and forth, forbidden, I want, but I'm going to pretend that I hate you because, like, it's fun that way, I mean, because you, again, like, you really don't hate somebody, like, you don't hate somebody that much without wanting a little bit in these situations. So that was really fun. There is more angst than there was in the previous book. There is a bit of, I guess you would say that there is a bit of a slow burn. Genevieve is definitely up for the challenge. She definitely wants him, and definitely tells Liam, like, I want you, and he tries his damnedest, and I love him for it. He definitely does. He pushes her away constantly. She keeps coming back for more, and I love that dynamic because they were able to get to know each other while he was still trying to keep her at arm's length, and that fight to see whose feelings would win out and how they would win out, because, I mean, you have this spark and it's only going to combust. And when is it going to combust? Because we got to be careful. You gotta, again, we're still teacher students, so if we allow it to combust at the wrong moment, we could get caught. And, let's not be stupid. Let's not dry hump each other and, do dirty things in the gym where we could, anybody could walk in. My girlfriend could walk in. Okay, I love you, Kova, but you dumb. You think with the wrong member. You don't do that. Once they got together, I felt like the story was then really rushed. Like, the ending was rushed for me, and I felt like I wanted more of a relationship development. I didn't feel. I felt the chemistry. I felt that spark that they had, in that really good lust, but I wanted to feel more of the love from them, and I would have, I don't know, I would have liked not to have such a rushed ending, but the beginning was, I mean, it pulled me right in. I gave this one a 4 stars. The next teacher-student recommendation I have for you is Like You by Rachel Lee. This is between Claire and Knox. I'm going to be honest, I struggled with if I wanted to leave this one in or not. But like my other recommendation video, just because I might not have been over the moon about a book does not mean that you would not. Subjective, right? But for me, this was all over the place. I mean, all over the place. Teacher-student romance can be a little monotonous, like you have that same formula. It's just, what the author can do. This one was a tad bit different. Claire is running away from her mafia husband boss, and but she doesn't make it too far. She only makes it about 2 hours away, and I kind of understood her thinking here. He thinks that I'm going to go really, really far away, but if I stay closer, he'll look further and not closer. I mean, I kind of get it, but like 2 hours. So she makes it there, where she is like substitute art teacher, but anyway, she like doesn't care about her job very much, and like really doesn't teach, but that's where she meets our hero, Knox. He is in her class, but he like King, seems older than he is, so like that is good. And he definitely pursues her. She seems like this very meek, quiet, mob boss's wife, who, I mean, you would just assume, like, was not treated the best, in a marriage. And so she is on her own for the first time and maybe trying to find herself a little bit. So the romance is whatever the romance is going to be. I thought that was the better part of the story. It's just the whole plot for me. Like, it honestly, like, it was like a tad bit unbelievable. Kind of like that 2 hours away from my mob boss kind of thing. I know that I'm reading fiction, but I'm not reading a fantasy. I want to read things that make sense in the real world for the most part. I mean, you know what I mean? She seems really meek. One of Knox's friends is really arrogant and really, I guess, maybe reminds her of her husband a little bit, and she always casts her eyes down and doesn't really make a lot of eye contact with people. And then all of a sudden at the end, she knows jujitsu and is like a hellfire badass. And I'm like, where'd you come from? Because that don't make no sense. All of a sudden, because you were a mafia boss, it means you learn how to fight, but you can't look somebody in the eye. Like, it was like a teeter totter balance for me. Some of it was good, some of it was unbelievable, but the whole was not all there. But you might like it. I gave it a 3. My next and my last teacher student recommendation for today is Directing You by Katana Collins. This was honestly, like, I feel like essentially a novella. It was under 200 pages. This is between Reed and Hazel. I actually enjoyed this one. I think I enjoyed it more coming off of Like You, but I enjoyed this one. I knew that things were going to happen quickly because it is less than 200 pages, so it didn't feel so much like insta love, but I knew that, again, things have to progress a little bit quicker because we don't have a lot of book to play with. So that being said, like, I am not an insta love kind of person, but I understood the assignment. So this one is, we've got Reed, who is a Tony Award winning director on Broadway, and he is doing a favor for somebody and teaching their classes at a prestigious school that is one of like a private acting school, which is where Hazel is going to school. But this is not where they first meet. They first meet when Reed is dragged to a burlesque show by one of his really good friends, who happens to be a famous actor, and happens to be a childhood friend of Hazel, and that's how they meet, when Hazel is doing a burlesque dance. And she really catches his eye because, unlike the other burlesque performances that he'd seen for that night, she really captivated the audience. She put on an actual show. She did this really great Willy Wonka rendition. Honestly, like, I was interested. I kind of wanted to see it. So that is their first meeting, and she kind of takes him into the back room, and they have this really amazing moment together, but he's pulled away, and that's it. Until, like, the next day at school, when she goes into her class and realizes that the guy that she had this amazing connection with the night before is a famous Tony Award winning director. Like, she knew his name, but she didn't know his face. So there is tension immediately, and there could be like this really horrible miscommunication, but Reed is, I felt like he was really adult about it, and he was like, hey, you didn't know, right? And she, doesn't beat around the bush. I really appreciate, I mean, again, we don't have a lot of time to do this, but they don't beat around the bush, but they also try to navigate this chemistry they have, because, I mean, they're in a really awkward situation anyway, being teacher student, but also where you're directing and acting, where people were getting parts that could skyrocket them somewhere. It could look as, favoritism, and neither one of them want that for the other person or for themselves. Hazel wants a part because she deserves that part, and she doesn't want other people thinking she gets that part because she's sleeping with the director, kind of thing. And Reed definitely does not want anybody to see Hazel like that, but he also believes that she has not been given the chances that she should have been given. Some other things come to light as well, but really it's about how he can get the girl. And, I mean, again, I'm going to say this. It was under 200 pages. In that sense, it almost reminded me like of a Neva Altai book where there's like so much jam packed into so little, and like how does that happen? It felt longer than it was, and I really like that dynamic. I feel like this one was a really, really good one to start with. I gave this one a 4 stars. There's not too much spice in it. I'd give it like maybe a 2.5. Maybe it, yeah, like I'd say like a 2.5. There's not too much spice, but I really liked that connection. So there it is. So those are all the teacher student recommendations that I have for you today. I love teacher student recommendations, guys. If you want more, I will bring you more. Especially because like it's like this spurred me on to find some really good teacher student romances. Like I said, I have an entire list. I pulled from it. But if you haven't already, definitely go check out my first student teacher recommendation video. I stand by those picks. I mean, those are a standby. So that is going to do it for today. But if you have a teacher student recommendation that is like top tier, it's not on my last video, it's not on this video. It may be on my list, it may not be on my list, I don't know. But if it's a teacher student recommendation, like I need to know. Also, if there is a trope recommendation that you are interested in, let me know down below because I would be happy to read for you. I do have a list of recommendations that I want to do. Some of them are very oddly specific, and I may reach out to you guys because I may need some help to get. I'd like to at least have 5 books in a recommendation, at least. I don't think that I gave you 5 today, but that's just going to do it for today, guys. I'm just sitting here rambling. I've missed you guys. I hope that you guys are doing great. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know what you're reading. Give me all the details down below. I will see you on my next video, but until next time, happy reading. Bye.
You draw me in slowly, brown eyes stare at me both.